is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Dark Tower, Book 5, Wolves of the Calla, Part 2, Chapter 1, The Pavilion. In this chapter, Roland can dance with aplomb. Welcome to Unspoiled.
We're finally here.
He basically does like what I imagine is like clogging, right?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is unexpected and delightful.
I was really excited to get here because when I first read the Roland dances scene, I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah, and it's, there's a lot of tension also because Eddie is like getting really, really nervous when they show up and feeling like they're about to throw shit at them or turn on them unexpectedly.
He's getting like Meiji's flashbacks and he wasn't even there.
Yeah, it's a really I don't know. It's made me wonder if there isn't something that's gonna be coming that they're not at yet, or if it's just him sort of like putting the memories together somehow, because this is the first time also that he calls himself from the line of Eld.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wonder, there's so much that seems to be falling into place for everybody in terms of their identity in this chapter, that I wonder if he hasn't tapped into something. But I don't even know what that means or looks like,
I feel like we're going to be talking a lot about this on this episode because almost this entire chapter is from Eddie's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is about just the feelings he's getting as they ride into town and just all the different kind of perceptions he's having about what's happening around them.
Right.
So I think that's something that we're gonna be able to kind of have a really good conversation about this time around, because it's a lot of the chapter. A lot of the chapter is Eddie going this is weird.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just sort of sitting here waiting to see how this all unfolds, because it ends with him. I mean, it ends in this place that feels very much like on the brink of some shit popping off,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what to expect.
Well, we can get into that and we'll analyze it, but you're not going to know what to expect. I'll play that much right now.
That's fair.
Anyway, you are Natasha. And I am Miles.
I am, Marguerite Santiago. I don't know who you believe you're speaking with, but...
Sorry. I'm sorry. Did I say Miles? I meant Masquerita Sagrada once again. Famed, legendary little person, professional wrestler. So
this is this is a ongoing joke, guys, from the Game of Thrones show, which if you aren't listening to, it means you're lame. So go listen to it.
If you were a patron, you would get that joke, and you would already be laughing.
You'd be lolling.
Instead of having to wait for later in the show. You would be laughing now. So, the money that you give to become a patron actually guarantees you more laughs per minute and more quickly into the episode.
That's probably true. On the whole, true. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So, okay. Chapter 1, The Pavilion. Our merry band of misfits arrives at the unwelcoming townsfolks who are literally carrying torches.
This doesn't give us any feelings about current events or anything, I'm sure. Certainly not.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think at any one point is like, are those tiki torches? I think he says that pretty much.
Yeah, somebody like starts the Twitter hashtag trending, Calla just so white.
Oh my god.
I mean, it seems that way, doesn't it?
Hashtag not all gunslingers.
That's right. Hashtag not all townsfolk.
All right, so we have this this greeting that feels very what's the word I want? That it could go either way. Tenuous?
Which greeting?
Like when, they ride in, it's really quiet.
Okay, I mean, you're skipping ahead. Do you want to cover some of the stuff before that, or do you just want to jump right in?
Oh, yeah, I guess, the horse thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, the horse thing is a big deal. I think we should probably mention there's a couple of things here that on a reread kind of gave me a little pause. And the first thing that happens is that Eddie goes to Roland and he says, look, when we went Toadash last night, it wasn't weird like it was before.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that, which I don't really know what to think of that.
Yeah, they don't really, talk about it anymore, and honestly, I don't even remember, why that might be.
Yeah. Well, so you're saying you don't remember, as somebody who has read this already.
Right, yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah. And then we have this thing with the horse, which is Eddie is super concerned that he's going to look like a total idiot because he's never ridden a horse before. And what the fuck kind of gunslinger has never ridden a horse before?
That's true. I mean, that's a fair question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But he gets up to the horse and, just knows.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole scene, he is it's almost like he feels like they've done this before.
Yes.
There's a bit where he says, when Jake brings up Oi onto his horse and, tucks him into a poncho on, the pocket of a poncho in front. And Eddie thinks to himself, if I told Jake I'd expected Oi to trot along behind us like a sheepdog, would he say he always rides like this? No, but he might think it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. There's there's just a weird vibe that you can get sometimes. And I'm not saying it's anything like this distinctive, but I think that probably a lot of us who are have a talent in a certain area have a moment where we're doing something and you're like, oh yeah, I mean, duh. Yeah. You just do the thing. What? And this though, it feels like with Eddie, it's something deeper than that. It's not just a talent, because he keeps on talking about, doesn't he think about reincarnation at one point?
Yeah, he does.
So I'm just I don't know what to think about that. I'm very much, I always have believed in reincarnation because to me, it just makes efficient sense. Why would you create a whole new person when you could just take the recycle the soul of a person already that you've got, mm-hmm. and you just don't even have to why would you not do that? That seems like just a smart, efficient way to use souls. I'm not sure
right.
if there's a diminishing return on that. I'm not sure how difficult it is to make a new soul if one believes in souls. So yeah, I might be totally off base here, but operating under the assumption that bodies are infinite and souls are not, just chuck a new soul into that body, whatever, or an old soul into the new body.
The argument I always hear about that seems to convince most people, the argument against reincarnation is that if reincarnation is real, then how could the population have expanded as much as it is? And I always am dude, nobody said it was just human to human,
right?
Do you know how many species have gone extinct? How many animals have died off and mm-hmm. how much fewer there are of certain types of creatures on the planet. If I could totally see a scenario in which a bunch of bugs die and they get reincarnated as fucking Cowboys fans,
sir.
I mean, okay, you're in Texas, aren't you?
No,
you don't care
I
about
don't give
football.
any shits. Go ahead.
But like, I'm excited about the season starting again, so you'll have to forgive me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I believe in it, but I don't think it makes. I think it makes more sense than a lot of people give it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular argument, like, is always invoked as like, oh well, then obviously, that's the silver bullet
Right.
that kills reincarnation. It's like, really?
Yeah, I mean, I just like that's always been the way that I understood it is that, you graduate from being one type of animal to another type of animal, to more and more complex animals with more and more complex critical thinking skills until you reach human being, where you inevitably stall out because you make the same mistakes over and over again because we never learn.
Oh, so you think there's a hierarchy? Like you start at Mayfly and move up to human being?
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So then, like, what, you make all the mistakes as a human and you go back to Mayfly, or are you just done at that point?
if you graduate human, I figure you probably go on to some thankless task as like some like otherworldly being that is.
Well, because I'm feeling right now like that when you graduate human, you move on to Gunslinger.
Ooh. So gunslingers are higher and more evolved than human beings? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it kind of seems that way, doesn't it?
It's kind of fucked up, Miles.
I'm just saying. Like, there is a real distinct sense in this chapter that, like, there are a couple times in this chapter where Eddie is like, I don't want to think badly of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand why they're feeling the way they do, but God, these fucking people.
Mm-hmm.
All you fucking sheep.
I mean,
it's just a little bit. But...
I'm not sure that has anything to do with being a gunslinger. I could just, Eddie's like, I feel like Eddie has had to cope with that probably a lot of his life, like feeling mentally superior to people, but he just had it beaten down and out of him by his stupid ass brother. And so he wasn't able to acknowledge it because it was he was made to like somehow disbelieve that he had this, like, you know what I mean?
Being gunslinger means getting the freedom to believe in your own superiority.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Being gunslinger is like, yeah, nobody's going to tell you no anymore.
So what you're saying is gunslingers aren't actually the next, like, order of reincarnation. They just feel like they are. Yeah,
like, okay, so, I mean, they might also be, okay, so, I think I don't remember if I've mentioned this series on this show before, but there's a series, a trilogy of books. I don't know what the trilogy as a whole is called, but the first book is called Uglies, the second book is called Pretties, and the third book is called Specials. Do you know what do you know what that series is called as a whole?
I don't.
Okay, yeah, I don't either. I should look that up. But the Specials book is about a group of people that is engineered like via extensive surgeries and like, hormonal and synaptic manipulation to be stronger and a better fighter than the average person, but they're also like mentally wired to believe themselves to be superior so that they mete out punishment and justice with a much more ready and ruthless hand than a person might otherwise do, because they have this haughtiness and this belief that it is the right thing for them to do. Like that this is their place and everybody else's place is to learn from them. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like that's what's going on with Gunslingers, just like a teeny tiny bit. Like, not as bad. It's not so like brutal and dramatic as to, because the specials in those books are genuinely made into terrible people. Like,
right.
But with Gunslingers, it's more like they can like tap into that terrible here and there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, Eddie is over here thinking like, hey, I can ride a horse. Like, maybe I am of the line of Eld after all.
Mm-hmm.
and they all say it in the meeting. We'll get to that later, but like, yeah, I can totally see that. I believe it's called the Ugliest Trilogy, by the way. The Dr. Internet has informed me that it is the Ugliest Trilogy.
Okay, right on. Oh yeah, yeah, here it is, Uglies. Yeah, those were fun. I need to reread those.
I read the first one with a group of with a class of kids that I was working with. We it was one of the books that the class read that year.
Okay.
And I thought it was really good.
Yeah, they're really fun.
I never read any more.
And then there was another one that came out that was called Extras, which I didn't like quite as much, but that's going to happen when somebody. It felt a little fan fiction-y, almost like they drew off of that world, but it wasn't the same crew. But anyway, this is not about those books. So there's just a kind of a question here about where they come from and how they know what they know that feels like it's something that they all sort of just accepted, and now they're starting to kind of question it, especially since they've all been asked to like introduce themselves to the crowd in this really distinct way. So it's just kind of funny, like, to think that they never really did question it before. Like, you didn't? I mean, I guess there wasn't time, and that's kind of a luxury, but you didn't walk for, like, weeks. Wouldn't you ask at any point, like, well, how do I know how to do this? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, it's interesting because the guns didn't necessarily come naturally. At least not for Eddie and Susanna. They spent a while in that forest, like, learning how to shoot.
That's true.
Jake, it feels like he's like been practicing between scenes. So that's probably also the case. But but it's also possible that, like, if they weren't naturally inclined towards it, they would never have become as good as they are now.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyway, Eddie is here thinking deep thoughts about whether or not Arthur Eld had at some point stopped by Co-op City. He said maybe for a Red Hot and a piece of Dolly Lundgren's fried dough.
Oh my God, that made me want fried dough, something fierce. Let me tell you.
Is that a thing? Just like fried dough?
What? Have you never? Holy shitballs! My brain just broke.
Well, like, what is it? Like,
okay, listen. This is the thing. It is not going to be as great for you if you try it now because it's not nostalgic. But, like, sincerely, fried dough is the shit. It's basically pizza dough, spread out, deep fried, comes up as this big, puffy, golden, crispy shell on the outside that's all doughy inside, like a crispier, better donut, and it's flat, and then you either cover it in butter and powdered sugar, which is just as good as it sounds, or you cover it in marinara sauce and Parmesan cheese, which is even better than it sounds.
Huh.
And they are almost always served at, like, county fairs and carnivals and things like that.
Okay, it sounds like fry bread. Maybe that's just what we call it here.
I guess it's probably fry bread because, like, fry bread, like, doesn't fry bread kind of get served almost like a taco a lot of the time? Like, it gets served with meat and, like, lettuce and tomato on it and stuff?
Not in my experience. In my experience, it usually has, like, honey on it.
Oh, because I've seen, like, fry bread trucks and they've had extras, but I don't know how, like, traditional that is.
I don't know. It's like, usually when there's a big... when there's a thing here in the Southwest, like a big gathering or whatever, like there'll usually be somebody selling fry bread.
Okay.
Like it's real fucking good. I think I mean, maybe it's just because I've only had this like associated it with like Native American culture, but it feels like it's a Native American thing.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I mean, mostly because Native Americans are impoverished as a whole, and it's super cheap to make, and it's got a lot of fat in it, which is like holds you. But yeah, it's definitely.
I feel like that might be the same thing then, but like y'all right coasters kind of call it something else.
I think though that like ours is bigger and thicker, but it's not. I'm not saying it's even a different thing, but I've had fry bread and it's like like when you get fried dough, that shit is larger than a dinner plate. It's ginormous. They're basically like a pizza, like a small pizza. Okay. But God,
well, then maybe I've never had it.
Good. Yeah. Oh, they're so good. But yeah, fry bread is like pretty similar now I think about it. Now I really want some. God damn.
All right. No, we'll meet that shit. I haven't been able to eat kind of bread in almost 3 weeks, Natasha.
Haha. I don't feel pity for you. I just laugh at you.
Oh, fine. Fuck you. All right. So enough about these.
Right.
So, like, Uglies, trilogies, and fry bread aside. As they're heading out, Jake asks Roland if he can go stay with his new friend. Because Benny the Younger has asked him to come out to the ranch, where I guess... So Benny the Elder, Ben Slateman, is the foreman out of this ranch where this dude named Eisenhart is the owner.
Right.
And Roland has gathered that Eisenhart is one of the 3 big important people in the Calla, along with Overholser and some dude named Took, which just makes me want to say Peregrine Took.
Fool of a Took.
Fool of a Took. But so Jake is like, hey, Benny invited me out there, and I was thinking that if I went, we could, like, it'd be good because I could get kind of a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he really just, like, he's like, I really want to go hang out with my new friend. Can I please go, surrogate dad?
Yeah. It's a really like touching moment, because this is when Roland realizes that here is a boy who is ashamed to be a boy.
Yeah.
That he can't just enjoy himself and go hang out with his friend, that it's not like that anymore. And I feel like we've been there, like all of us at one point or another have had that moment of, and I can't remember mine, but I know I had one where I was suddenly just like, oh, I can't with just joyful abandon just enjoy this. I'm conscious of it now.
Oh, sure.
You know,
I mean, that is such a universal idea that they put it at the beginning of the Bible, dude. I mean, that's what Adam and Eve is. It's
just so like with Adam and Eve, it just feels so unrelatable. You know, oh, we're naked. Let me get clothing. Yeah. Like,
yeah, because we're not fucking Puritans.
Don't get me wrong. If I did discover that I was suddenly naked, I would react that very way. But
I don't know. It would depend on where I was and who I was with.
But yeah, I definitely have been like, especially I think it can be weird when you're a nerd, and I had that like goofiness, and it, like once I got to high school, I sort of like came into myself and felt more confident and was able to enjoy goofy shit again without feeling like weird about it. But when you're a kid that's kind of a loner like I was when I was little, and you like weird shit and you don't like have a lot of friends, you get, I think maybe that like moment of feeling awkward about it comes even earlier, probably.
Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to remember if I had. I'm sure I did. I'm like you. I'm sure I did. I just don't know when.
Right.
But yeah, that concept of like, you know, oh no, all of a sudden we're not children anymore, and it's like embarrassing to be seen, like splashing in rain puddles or whatever, or you know, like, you know, sure. I think that's something everyone can relate to, because I think that's just like
that's life.
That's a universal childhood moment, like end of childhood moment. So yeah, but he handles it super well. Roland does.
Yeah.
He's like he recognizes that if he says no, Jake will not ask again, and like not even be a dick about it. But like if he treats it like a kid's thing, like, oh sure, go play with your friend, honey, then he'll be like, oh no, I'm not going.
Yeah.
So instead, what Roland does is like, no, that's a good idea. Why don't you go?
Yeah.
Which I was so proud.
It like
I was so proud of him.
Yeah.
I was so proud of him.
We're all growing.
Yeah. So, so this is when they get to the town,
Right.
and they look down on it from above, and
it is really surprising how, because honestly, like this stop and taking the view thing, I didn't really expect to be anything. But it feels like kind of a moment for everybody, you know, and especially like Roland is pointing out the different kinds of crops that are growing and where, like, is it sheep or cattle over there? And whose farm is that one that's full of wheat and all? It's a very like, I can't think of the word that I want. Appraising, but like appraising implies that you're doing it out of self-interest. Like there's a value that you're assigning to things.
you're like judging it.
Yeah. And this is more like I'm being polite and also like encouraging you to be on my side, but it's still genuine. You know, like he's giving everybody compliments about their land and the beautiful, like, fertile little enclave that they've got carved out for themselves. But he's doing it like clearly in a way to like get people on their good side, but also it feels like Roland really means it because he has seen some of this in his own past, and so it means something to him in particular.
Well, we definitely, Roland is kind of is once again entering his element.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he's with the others and it's just them, he is a little bit more vulnerable now. He's a little bit like, you know, more of like their friend.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get to this town and they step among these people and they are like, you know, on this mission, he really does become their din, as they put it.
Right.
Like he is their leader, and that means he is he takes on very much the persona and the aura of like an ambassador.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like he did in River Crossing back in the day. And beyond that, he's also like he knows more about this. This is like he recognizes shit.
Right.
Like the whole at the very beginning when he's like the whole come Kamala thing when they mention the rice and the dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh well shit, you know the rice song? And he's like, yeah, I know the rice song, motherfucker. You know? And
motherfucker.
the others are like, what the fuck is the rice song? But like he knows exactly what he's talking about. So he's like, you know, he's large and in charge is what I'm saying here.
Indeed. So, okay. Arriving at the town.
Sure.
It's real quiet. Feels almost like it's abandoned, except that they can like see the torches lit.
Right.
Down one of the roads. Eddie's getting a bit punchy, like worrying that somebody's going to start throwing corn shucks at him.
He's really freaking out.
Yeah, he is.
Like he's yeah, as they rode in the Calla Sturgis, Eddie kept expecting that man, those lamb slaughterers' eyes, and the handful of corn shucks, because this town felt bad to him. Not evil as Magius had likely been on the night of Susan Delgado's death, but bad in a simpler way. Bad as in bad luck, bad choices, bad omens, bad ka, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He's like just really, and nobody else seems to be doing this.
Yeah.
Like maybe they are, but like Susanna's like, oh, what's a lake boat mart, you know, and like they're all just talking. Eddie is like, this is fucked up.
Yeah, I kind of was waiting for somebody else to be like, yeah, do you feel that? You know, but like it never happens. It feels like it's really just him, and I'm not sure if that's significant or not. But it definitely sort of is like, I don't know. It's sort of a weird thing to have go continually through this whole chapter and then turn out to be nothing. So, and I don't think, I don't think it's nothing. I just don't know when it's going to actually like turn up again. So
I think what gives it that feeling is the fact that like this chapter is written from Eddie's perspective, and Eddie is picking up on every last tiny detail of this place. Mm-hmm. Like his senses are wired up to here. Like, he is just like, oh, I smell this, 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 and this, and I hear this, and I see this, and I'm imagining this. And it's like, you can just tell he is on the edge.
Yeah, definitely.
So they go to the platform, like the stage, where all the people are basically gathered, right?
Right.
And Wayne Overholser stands before them with the feather, of course.
Oh
Gotta have the feather.
I don't know why this feather makes me so annoyed. I think it's just
weird.
It's one of those things that's like a leftover from kindergarten where, you'd pass a stick around or something, and eventually it got to a point where nobody actually paid attention to it, and everybody just talked when they wanted. And
it does feel a little bit childish,
just a little. I get it, especially people are terrible, and you have to treat them like kids a lot of the time. So to a degree, I'm like, yeah, no, I feel you.
I mean, it's not just that, but fucking school classrooms at those young ages are more democratic than anything after that.
True.
So it's I don't know. I can see a town that just didn't see the point in coming up with any more complicated laws or methods for determining how people should speak. The other thing about it for me is that I just rewatched Undercover Brother recently.
Oh my God.
Which I don't know if you've seen that, but
I've not seen it.
You haven't seen it?
Nope.
Oh God, Chris Kattan plays a character called Mr. Feather, who twirls a little feather, and the whole movie is he's working for the man, there's an actual man keeping black people down.
Oh my God.
The man is a supervillain, and but Chris Kattan's character, even though he's the villainous main henchman of this guy, is super into black culture.
And wow, that is a pretty great commentary, actually.
Keeps having to pretend that he doesn't know the words to all these songs and knows how to do all the dances and everything.
Oh man, maybe I should watch that.
It's a bizarre film and definitely problematic, but it has moments of brilliance. Anyway, beyond leaving Chris Kattan's Mr. Feather character aside, Wayne Overholser takes the feather and says, all right, everybody, you remember, he does a previously in Wolf's Calla,
Yep.
thing. He's y'all remember when we were here last time and we had that conversation about going to get the gunslingers to save our kids? Well, I was against it. I'm kind of rethinking things. These are the people we found. They're gunslingers. They have guns. They shoot guns. Here they are.
Yep.
And they all come forward individually. I want to say at this point, too, one of the other reasons I think that this kind of had, as they enter the town, this kind of had a creepy feeling is because King, again, does the thing where he says, he drops a little something about what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He says,
Eddie's memories were really good.
Yeah. He remembered the way the torches changed when the speaking was done. And I thought of it because it says he remembered Oi's unexpected salute to the crowd, which happens here.
Mm-hmm.
Because they all come forward and they bow and say who they are. And they all say it in weird different ways. Eddie says he's of the quartet of 19. And then Jake says he's of the quartet of the 90 and 9.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah, what are you doing creating your own quartet over there, huh? You think you're better than me?
He looks over at Susanna's 90 and 9. She's I don't know.
Yeah, I like that he says that to Susanna, and she's like, well, I don't know. And then he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know what the fuck I was talking about either, so sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then Oi, comes forward and, rises up on his little hind legs and puts one of his fucking feet forward and bows over it and says, Oi, Eld, thank ye.
This is I know that Oi's horrible death is inevitable, but I'm just gonna fucking be so crushed. It's not gonna be pretty, guys. I won't be able to talk about anything else. Just so you know, once it happens, that episode is just gonna mean being angry. That's gonna be the whole thing. It's just me being pissed. I won't be talking about any of the rest of the plot. It's just going to be me going,
it's going
to
be the Oi memorial episode.
Exactly.
All right, so they get up there and they introduce all themselves, and like Oi does the thing, and the crowd like cheers really loudly and starts
Oh
applauding.
my god.
And then Roland is like, "Hey guys, we're gonna say something right now, but you know, not much of a public speaker, so Eddie's gonna say something."
Oh my god.
And Eddie's like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?"
Eddie is just... I was trying to picture how this would go in my head, and I just hear everybody going silent, expectant, the scuff of Eddie's boots as he like steps out in front on the platform, kind of staring around. You can hear some people in the crowd kind of go and like some shifting, and he like looks around and starts to talk, and his voice comes out like and then he has to like clear his throat and be like, forgive me for a slow start. And you're just like cringing, like you can't, just don't, Eddie. Oh my god, this is too painful. And then all of a sudden he busts out with a joke that they all love, and it's like smooth sailing. It's
he doesn't even like
weird
really
thing.
know it's a joke either.
Yeah. He says, haven't been around people in a blue moon, and they all start laughing. And he's like, well, okay. Like,
sure, that was definitely funny.
yeah, he doesn't get what the joke is, but he's like, I'll take it. And like, while he's doing his talk, he like looks around and sees some people who are clearly not really approving of the way that he's phrasing things.
Yeah, he kind of he starts off really strong, and they're already kind of inclined to listen to him because of what Oi did, like got them all on their side.
Mm-hmm.
And what he basically says is like, hey, you know, we're just gonna hang out here. We're gonna figure out what's happening, and if we decide that we're gonna stick our necks out for you people, you're all gonna have to stick them out too. Mm-hmm. Just so you know.
Yep.
And everybody starts kind of grumbling.
Yeah, do no harm. And also, there's no free lunch.
Right, sure. There ain't no free lunch.
Which I feel it's... Obviously, I feel it's fair. But it does seem like a weird way to start out the relationship.
I mean, I'm just saying, I've been to plenty of places where there was free lunch. That's all I'm going to say. Like, I've had several free lunch experiences. Sometimes you go to a thing just because of the free lunch, so I don't get that saying, personally.
I mean, every time that I've gone to something for a free lunch, I've had to suffer through another thing, though. It's rarely been, like, a free lunch for something that you would have wanted to go to anyway. It's almost always a free lunch because we know you would never do this otherwise.
You're saying the price is paid not in gold.
Exactly.
Fair
exactly. Oh God. So yeah, he goes out there, says his shit. They're feeling a little bit like some kind of way about it.
Some kind of way.
And when they're done, they all, like, Callahan has to kind of be like, so why don't we try that again? Let's applaud one more time. And everybody's like, yeah, all right.
Give him a proper Calla welcome, people.
Oh, man.
Eddie feels kind of bad about himself because he feels like he's just Roland's mouthpiece. And he acknowledges that Cuthbert was that before he was. Mm-hmm. Which is an interesting comparison.
Which I think, like, is a little unfair. Because it's not, like, I would understand that feeling a little bit more if it were him and Roland had some kind of conversation about this beforehand, and it felt like Roland just expected him to, like, basically go out there and regurgitate the conversation that they had already had. But he just puts Eddie on the spot and is like, go out and say some shit, and he doesn't instruct him in any particular way. So
if Roland had given Eddie like a script,
right?
Then maybe. But yeah, no, Eddie. He's just like, Eddie, talk to them, and I think it's really interesting. Like, so why do you think he did that?
Well, later when they're at dinner, Eddie's like thinking that Roland kind of did him a favor because now he's warmed up for the crowd that he has to deal with. Because everybody sort of already feels like they know him, which I think is pretty smart. Like, you know, that's just a natural thing. I mean, I get so many messages from people who listen to this show and they message me and talk to me as if we've known each other forever, even though I have no idea who they are. And they're like, listening to me has made them feel ready to completely open up in a way that they otherwise would never do with a total stranger. So I think that was...
Well, shit, dude. I mean, we met in person once. Like, you and I mean, like, we really hit it off, but, like, we met in person one time. So, yeah, you get that.
But, I mean, like, we met in person one time, but we had conversations, though.
Yeah.
You know, like, it wasn't, like, a one-sided thing. This is just him walking up there and people feeling like they connect with him, even though he hasn't done a one-on-one thing yet with anyone.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I mean, yeah, I can totally understand though. Like in your case, people, it's really easy to feel you're very relatable, Natasha. So it's pretty easy for that to happen. I feel like with Eddie, you know, he is relatable, but he's got like once it's past that awkward stage, which he has a hard time with, then Eddie's a great guy. But it's like you have to get to that point with him, you know, and like he stumbles out of the gate. So maybe that was what Roland was going for. Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. Yeah, like it's just I feel like everybody coming, like, because Roland seems like he's pretty much involved in one conversation during dinner with that one Manny guy. And Eddie's the one who's sort of fielding all of the other inquiries and questions and concerns of everybody else. So I'm gonna guess that's like that Roland set Eddie up so that everyone would go talk to him and Roland could go and have his conversation.
Yeah, well, I think he did set him up as the mouthpiece. Like he's not like Roland's words aren't coming out of his mouth, but Roland did set him up as like the guy you go to if you have questions.
He's the PR guy.
Because exactly. Because I'm going to be busy and y'all aren't going to pay attention to what Susanna or Jake say anyway. So, you know, so you're going to be talking to this guy and here's what he has to say. But I'm very glad that Roland trusted Eddie to say what he wanted to say, while at the same time trusting that their interests would, of course, you know, kind of be in alignment.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That's how that goes. And the meal is amazing, and there's like 200 different dishes, which is awesome. I wish that they were described in a little bit more George R.R. Martin style detail, but you know, that's fine.
Do you really?
I love the food like descriptions. I know people get really annoyed about that. I mean, I think there were a couple times where I got like, okay, we get it. But mostly, the only times I got annoyed about it was when he was like, the stew was thick with onions and barley. And I'm like, holy shit, we know. That's what every stew that you've ever talked about is thick with. Can we not? But most of the time, I'm like...
Like, the stew was a typical Westerosi stew. Moving on.
Right, exactly. But when he's like, neeps swimming in butter and a partridge stuffed with nuts, and I'm just like, yeah, tell me more. Say it again, but slow.
There's a parade of people here who are coming up to ask Eddie questions, as we've talked about. And a couple of them are interesting. This guy, Garrett Strong, comes up, and he wanted Eddie to tell them where the children would be kept safe when the wolves came. For we can't leave him here, you must ken it very well, he said. Eddie, who realized he kenned very little, sipped at his graph and was non-committal.
That's about the job, right? Is to just never really give a straight answer.
And then there's this Neil Faraday guy who comes up and makes sure Eddie knows that they don't take all the children.
Yeah.
And Eddie thinks of asking Faraday what he'd make of someone who said, well, only 2 of them raped my wife. Which is like, you know, kind of a weird place to go.
But it's not he's looking at this guy thinking, yeah, I don't think he's of the age to have children. So right. I got to put this in terms that he would actually give a shit about, because clearly he has trouble relating to, like, you know, human emotions that don't directly affect him because he's a fucking sociopath. So I get that. I mean, it wasn't the greatest, but I get it.
Yeah. So, the celebration continues. The torches change color every 10 or 15 minutes, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I liked that. Like, Eddie's like, oh, it's not really that impressive. But I was kind of like, I mean, isn't it? Like, with fire? I mean, I don't really see that.
Impressive, yeah. If the Charlottesville Nazis had been doing that, then they would have looked much prettier while they were... Anyway.
Inadvertently making themselves into a giant rainbow. Whoops.
I know. Kind of love that idea, actually. So then this dude, George Telford, shows up.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that Eddie noticed before, and I think he was the dude in the prologue who was kind of described as being silver-tongued.
Okay. I wasn't sure which, because I lost track of who was who from the start of this, so okay.
And I'm imagining a very kind of like regal Southern gentleman who kind of talks like this, and just knows everything that he's saying, but
it's just so hot today. Oh, there's an ongoing joke in another podcast where he tried to say cat on a hot tin roof, but he got it mixed up with the dog Tintin. And so they started to do this bit where it's cat on a hot tan roof. And it's like this old Southern woman. And now whenever somebody speaks in a Southern accent, I always hear Elliot Kalin, head writer for The Daily Show for like 10 years, going, oh, it's just so hot today. And so this is, when you say that, that is who this gentleman is now. He is from straight out of A Streetcar Named Desire.
Is that guy on the Flophouse?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I know who you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just picturing him with like a silver, long silver hair and just like all in white. I'm not sure
white.
if that's
definitely
described or not, but if that's what it feels like,
Probably some kind of like bolo tie, something that's not quite a tie, but still gives the impression of like being dressed up.
Fucking fake Southwest tourist turquoise is what this guy's wearing.
Tourist turquoise. I'm trying to come up with a portmanteau of that, and I can't figure out.
I don't come from Arizona. What are you talking about? I feel like the portmanteau is just turquoise, which is a problem.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
Anyway, so Telford's kind of like, he's cozying up a little bit and making small talk for a second, and Eddie's like, oh, this guy is going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. And at one point, Telford is like, he basically says, like, come on now. Yeah. Like, gunslingers, whatever. Like, who are you guys really?
Yeah, he straight up is like, have you ever even used that gun? To which I was just like, oh, no, he didn't. Like, I was definitely doing a bit of a, I really wanted Eddie, not really, because I knew it would like make everybody really agitated, but I really wanted Eddie to just whip that shit out and like shoot the wick off of a torch or something.
Right.
Just, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Tempting fate this way.
And he says that. He says, have you ever used the gun you carry, after he like crosses the line the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Because when he says like, hey, who are you really? It's like, tell me who are you? And Eddie's like, I'm Eddie Dean of New York, and I hope to Christ you're not questioning my honesty.
Yeah.
And Telford's like, no, not at all. Not just like, I'm just asking like if you've ever used that gun before, because I don't think you're actually a gunslinger. It's like, dude, come on.
That like, and he like takes a step back from Eddie when Eddie says that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, listen, did you not expect that kind of reaction? Because you're being an asshole. Like,
right.
Did you think he was just going to be cool with you? He went up on the fucking pavilion platform in front of everyone the first time he met him and was like, y'all better not be lazy about this. So yeah, he is going to react if you straight up act like he's lying. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think Telford, like, I'm thinking we were talking earlier about kind of like gunslingers, maybe or maybe not feeling like they're above the common people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for a certainty, the common people think they are. And like we're talking about the people of Calla and Sturgis are like holy shit gunslingers, right?
Right.
So Telford is going like, these aren't gunslingers, these are just people pulling political moves, which means that they're on the same level as me. These are people. These folks are running a con, essentially, and I'm a con man too. So I'll go up to this guy and be like, "Hey, man, like between us, like obviously you're not going to tell them because they're stupid, but like between us, people who understand these things, who are you really? You know?" And Eddie is just like, you have no fucking idea.
We are not on the same team, buddy.
Yeah,
we are not familiar with one another. There's a familiarity there. Yeah. You are presuming, sir. I would thank you not to use my Christian name. Please refer to me as, what is his last name? Dean? But what's his name?
Yeah.
What does he say when he introduces himself? Because I kind of want him to like have this long fucking
he says son of Wendell, I think.
Wendell. Oh my god.
Isn't that what he says?
I think you're right.
I'm checking now because now I want to know. Yeah, Eddie Dean of New York, son of Wendell, and then he thinks at least that's what Ma always claimed.
I'm just like, what? All right, Mom. She's just like, I don't know, Wendell. It's fine. She never knew a Wendell in her fucking life.
So yeah, he's like fucking. I am Elliot. I am Eddie Dean, son of Wendell. Do not fuck with me, motherfucker.
Yeah, just like, don't call me Eddie. Don't call me Cy Dean. The Cy thing always throws me off. Is it Cy for women and men?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I totally did not like. I think I lose track sometimes of what formalities go to whom. But yeah. Anyway, this guy is a shitbag, and Eddie basically just is like, you know what? You can go away. Just go.
He says, I've used this one and the other one and the Ruger as well, and don't you ever speak to me that way again, my friend, as if the two of us were on the inside of some funny joke. Mm-hmm. And then Telford is like, if I offended you, gunslinger, I cry your pardon. And Eddie's like, well, at least I said gunslinger. But I love this, they kind of settle things, and I love this line at the end where it says, where Telford smiles. It was a handsome Pa Cartwright smile, and in it Eddie saw one thing clear. This man would never come over to their side. Not, that was, until and unless every wolf out of Thunderclap lay dead for the town's inspection in this very pavilion, and if that happened, he would claim to have been with them from the very first.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so good. It's like, yeah, everybody knows that guy.
Yep.
He's probably your fucking mayor.
He's probably your fucking president.
Yeah, well, let's not insult the George Telfords of the world, shall we?
Listen, you know.
So, the party goes on. Jake and Benny have kind of wandered off. Eddie's been noticing they're just like super good friends. Like they're really just getting along really well.
Right. It's really sweet.
And then
it's so nice for Jake to have a friend, and I'm afraid that this is going to go terribly.
Right. And then they all figure out that they've actually, as it happens, have arrived on Calla and Sturgis open mic night. And people just come up and start like randomly singing songs.
Yeah, this is a thing that apparently is like, I went to an Irish wedding, and it was like he was from Ireland. It was not just like Irish descendants in my family. Dude was from Ireland, right, marrying an American woman. And after dinner, before dancing, there was this like whole section where people just got up and sang. It was kind of hilarious in some ways. And I'm not real great about people singing. Like, I feel really awkward about it a lot of the time. But there's something about when people are drunk and they're singing that they lose all pretense, and it's so much easier to watch. If you get my meaning, like it doesn't have that sort of like I'm trying to do something here. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just I can, and it's so much more like these are people that it feels like they do this all the time. Like they're so comfortable up there that it makes me comfortable watching it too. Right, that makes sense. So yeah, it can be a really good time. Although you hear some fucking depressing songs too, but this reminded me of that a lot, and I was like, aw, kind of wish I could go to a party like this again. Fair enough.
It definitely seems fun. And at one point, Callahan goes up and
sings this fucking song. What? Buy me another round, you booger, you.
It's definitely an Irish song. I just like. Is that real? Do the Irish use the word booger in their drinking songs? Or maybe it's totally legit. I don't know. I'm not Irish.
I just can't. You booger, you. Who calls anybody a booger ever? What? Oh my god.
Oh gosh. And Susanna goes up.
Yeah. And she sings this song that I'm not familiar with.
Made of Constant Sorrow. I know I've heard of it. I can't bring it to mind. Like, I know I've heard the song.
Yeah, it didn't ring any bells for me. But I'm terrible with song names. Like,
yeah.
So
it's like I'm good with song names if I bought the album, you know, or if I'm super familiar with the band. Mm-hmm. But like those classic iconic songs, you know how they go, but who the fuck knows what they're called?
Yeah, the minute they start playing, you're like, oh, and you can like sing along. But yeah, forget it.
And everybody seems pretty happy with her song. It says Susanna was no Joan Baez, but her voice was true, full of emotion. And why not? It was the song of a woman who has left her home for a strange place. Mm-hmm. When she finished, there was no silence as after the little girl's duet, but a round of honest, enthusiastic applause. And Eddie is, of course, going nuts on it. Mm-hmm. And then.
I didn't know what was happening here. He gets up and crosses his arms and puts his palms on either side of his face. And everybody just goes nuts immediately. It's like, I don't... and so just picturing that right away, I was just like, this is ridiculous, like already. And then...
They react to it, as Eddie says, like a rock star starting a really well-known song.
Mm-hmm. Which... because the song is like a work song, right? It's a song that you're supposed to sing while you're harvesting. So
I mean, I guess, yeah.
It's just kind of weird to me that they would have something that specific of a gesture associated with this song, because people aren't looking over at each other touching the sides of their face while they're out in the rice pad. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand how that goes with this song in particular.
It's I don't remember the part where it's specifically like, is there a part where they specifically say this is what we sing out in the fields? Because like it could be more of a kind of a good luck for the harvest ritual type deal.
I guess so. I guess they don't specifically say it. It's just the rhythm of it when he starts it sounds like that kind of song.
Yeah, it does. Although I can also picture it. It's like, I don't want you. You know, I'm not asking you to sing it for me or anything, but I'm curious to know like how you hear this in your head, because it always makes me wonder, like when writers, like, you know, Tolkien does it a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Like, here's the song that they sang and here are all the lyrics, and like some authors, when they're like, especially when their shit is set in like more contemporary settings or something like that, or, you know, like with something like this, for example, when Eddie will be like, oh, that's Velcro Fly by ZZ Top. Mm-hmm. You know, It'll be like he sung the song in the same tune of X popular song, and you know what it's supposed to be. But this is like, I don't know. I kind of hear it as a like da 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 da, like the same thing over and over again. So I don't know. I'm always very interested to hear how people hear the music in fiction when there's no reference point.
Well, I'll tell you, for this one, I heard come chameleon. Rest come fall. Isabella. No, I didn't really. But that definitely was like in my mind a few times.
Oh god. Anyway. Yeah, so whatever the reason, he goes up and he does this weird gesture and they go fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And he waits for them to quiet down, and then he's like, "We are well met in the Calla, but I and my friends have been far, and we have much yet to do and see. Now, while we bide, will you open to us if we open to you?" Which is the first of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, "Aye and thank you," really loud. And then he says, "Do you see us for what we are and accept what we do?" And Eddie can see a couple of the guys, like Telford, like looking around, going like, "What is happening?"
They're like, "This is just happening." Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like, you know, because Roland is like, he doesn't ask the third question, right?
Right.
But he asks the first two, like, in these circumstances where it's like, you know, what are they going to say? No? Like, they just gave you Rockstar treatment. Like, it's, you know, do you want to see Ozzy bite the head off a live bat? Yeah! You know, damn right we do. We're drunk. You know?
Yeah.
So he asks both the questions and they say yes. Well, to the second one, do you see us for what we are and accept what we do? They say gunslingers fair and true, say thank you in God's name, and they go like, yeah, you're a bugger. And then Roland says, all right, well, I'm going to sing one final song before we take off, and I'm pretty sure you know this one. Sing along if you know the words.
Oh my God. I like, it's so great. It's such a weird thing. In the end, Eddie had no real idea what the words to the Rice song might have been. Not because of the dialect, not in Roland's case, but because they spilled out too fast to follow. Once on TV, he'd heard a tobacco auctioneer in South Carolina. This was like that. There were hard rhymes, soft rhymes, off rhymes, even rape rhymes, which I was always taught those were called slant rhymes. I guess things have changed. Words that didn't rhyme at all, but were forced to for a moment within the borders of the song. It wasn't a song, not really. It was like a chant or some delirious street corner hip-hop. That was the closest Eddie could come, and all the while, Roland's feet pounded out their entrancing rhythm on the boards. All the while, the crowd clapped and chanted, "Come, come, come, come." So yeah.
That's not cultish at all.
That sounds intense.
Because he starts like you said, it's like clapping or almost tap dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And this fucking song is like part of the reason I feel like it might not be a field song is that it is about harvesting rice in like exactly the same way that it's about sex.
Yeah, definitely. But sex is often like in songs about fertility and whatnot. I don't know, like, you know, harvest, and they go together a lot. Sure,
I know. I'm just saying, like, you might not want to be thinking about sex while you're in the act of harvesting.
Okay.
My only thought. And then fucking like when the song is about to end and everybody knows when the ending is coming, they all stop and thrust, do a hip thrust together and shout Kamala.
Yeah, they do a pelvic thrust.
That's right. And then he fucking crowd surfs.
That was my favorite.
Then he fucking crowd surfs.
I love that he falls forward and Eddie's just like, whoa, shit. I'm like, Eddie, dude, this is on purpose. Relax. Of course he's doing this on purpose. a second later, they're like, I think it's part of the show. No fucking shit, it's part of the show. Come on.
For sure. And that is the end of the jams for the night.
Indeed.
And there's a slight breather here before the end of the chapter where they go off. Jake goes off with Benny, and the rest of them go off with Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
And Callahan like wraps Roland up in a blanket, like, dude, are you okay? You went nuts.
And I'm spent.
In more ways than one.
I hope not.
And Roland asks him how long he's been here, and Callahan says he doesn't know. He says he left he first got here, like it was the winter of '83 when he left his world.
Mm-hmm.
9 years after he got his scarred hand.
Yeah, and he doesn't say how he got that scarred hand.
He does not.
So that's an interesting thing.
They get to the church. It's called Our Lady of Serenity. And Callahan says, or Roland like shakes his head when they ask about like, are you feeling Black 13 in there? And he's like, no, it's asleep.
Yeah, which I really was a little disappointed. I thought that we were going to like do something with that tonight. I mean, it's fine, but you know.
Yeah. And Roland also asks Callahan if he's ever been sent Todash, and he says it's happened twice.
And the second time he feels he was lucky to get back at all.
Yeah, to the Castle of the King.
What's that about, yo?
Yeah, and he's like, we should not talk about it now. And then he has this great line where he looks at Eddie and he says, the Wolves are coming, bad enough. Now comes a young man who tells me the Red Sox lost the World Series again to the Mets.
Yeah, that was pretty cute. Yeah, he keeps trying to like lighten the mood because he's just like, no, you don't want to hear this story when it's
really
dark out.
Doesn't want to talk about any of the stuff in the dark.
Yep.
Like, and like they're all fucking tired.
Mm-hmm.
We do also learn here that Susanna found out from Zalia Jaffords that her husband Tian, his grandfather, who we saw in the prologue,
mm-hmm.
Claims to have killed one of the wolves.
Yeah, that I forgot about that because they don't actually talk to him in this, and he's like really old. So it would have had to be like close to 70 years ago that this happened. But yeah, he might have seen what's underneath their masks. So that's pretty significant. I like kind of don't want to know what's underneath their masks. I'm going to be honest. You can just leave those on. That's fine. You know, that's whatever. It's cool.
And they're like, I love Susanna and Eddie are talking about like what they're going to do next. And then they hear a snore and Roland has fallen asleep.
Of course he has.
Because he's done.
He's spent. Yep. He done.
Yeah. And yeah, that's basically it. Eddie and Susanna go to bed. Roland goes to bed. Eddie kind of reflects on the day, and he's still not quite like cool with all this, but he seems to be pretty distracted by the fact that that Roland just fucking did this dance.
Yeah. He's seen a part of him that he didn't know was even there. And he thought he knew this guy pretty well, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, they haven't, the ambassador stuff that they've needed to do certainly hasn't taken them in the dancing direction.
Definitely not.
So, again, I think always, when they see this side of Roland, they're always a little bit surprised.
Agreed.
Because it's not a side that he shows to them because he doesn't need to. Like, what good would it do? They don't have any. He's not in their world. They don't have any customs he needs to follow. So, yeah. And that's this chapter. I fucking love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
There's an illustration of him dancing too that I'm gonna hopefully.
Oh,
be
is there
able
an
to
illustration
find.
in yours?
Yeah, I'm hoping I can find it, an online version, so that I can use it for the post for this episode because it's very awkward looking. Like, I've mentioned before that some of these illustrations you can just see how dated they are, even though it's not. Like, it's just a weird style that really feels very like 70s. But it's kind of silly because like Roland looks the same age in this illustration as he does in the flashback illustration of him and Cuthbert when they're shooting out at the cliffside, the cliff's edge.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be 18 maybe during that flashback, but they look like they're 50 in the illustration. And in this illustration, he looks that same age. So it just threw me off a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to try and share this one if I can.
Right on. I feel like we should do 2 chapters, not next week, but the week after.
Yes, next week is the finale episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
So we're going to go back to weekly after that?
If that works for you. That works
for me.
Okay.
So in 2 weeks, we'll do the next 2 chapters, because the first one is super short.
Okay.
And really just is a lead into the next one. So it'll be part 2, chapter 2, The Dry Twist, and then part 2, chapter 3, The Priest's Tale, New York.
Cool. All right, cool. And we have a new review that I wanted to read real quick from
Nice.
Daniel G42 from the United States. 5 stars, great. I first read parts 1 through 3 in high school, and I thought they were so good. Then read each as they came out so slowly. When the new movie was announced, I wanted to find a good book podcast, and so happy I found this one. I listened to 3 to 4 episodes while I work, and may need to slow down now that I'm getting caught up. Natasha and Miles are really awesome on this.
Oh,
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Daniel. Really appreciate it.
very sweet of you. Yeah. I aspire to be awesome in all that I do.
Agreed. Same. And new patrons this week, we have DeAndrea Harris, Julie Bouchard, Tristan Hydett, Silje Iran Strom, Nicole Larson, Joseph Angel, Nina Bennett, Laura, Emily Kramer, Adam Elliott, and Lisa Aisato. Welcome to all of you patrons, you wonderful people. If you're $5 and up, you'll get access to the ongoing Twin Peaks recordings that I'm doing with Maggie. We just finished season 2. We're doing the movie Firewalk with Me next, which was horrifying. And then we're going to move on to season 3, which is still airing, actually. So that will be interesting. Man, I was not ready for that movie, though. I was not ready for that fucking movie. I was not ready for the finale. Have you watched this show, Miles?
I have seen precisely 0 episodes of Twin Peaks, and I've been meaning to fix that for a long fucking time.
Listen, the first season's amazing. The second season is almost straight trash from beginning to end. And I'm sorry, everybody who's listening who loves this show, but you know I'm right. Even people who love this show kind of have to admit that. However, it has a uncompromising finale that is shocking in its brilliance that I really just did not see coming. And then the movie is just basically they take away all of the goofiness of the show and they just go straight in for the extremely adult themes of what this was going on in this town, and it's really upsetting. And I wasn't ready for that. I thought it was still going to have that kind of winking at the camera sort of vibe that the show does, and it doesn't. You get no relief from how bleak and sad so much of it is. So yeah, Maggie and I are going to talk about that next week. And season 3, I have not heard a whole lot about, except that one person on my timeline said that he hasn't been that scared watching something for the last 10 years. That one of the episodes of the show scared him so badly that he couldn't. And Maggie said the same. She was like, I couldn't sleep. So when David Lynch wants to be upsetting, he knows how. That motherfucker.
Oh, yes. He most certainly does. I sometimes very much wish I could forget Blue Velvet, but
oh my God,
I can't.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle MacLachlan again.
Anyway, yeah, I've been meaning to. I've heard so many things about Twin Peaks before the new show even started, and yeah, I really need to. I mean, it is on the list, dude. There's a million things I need to catch up on, and unfortunately, right now, Sharon and I are on just the biggest fucking Doctor Who kick in the world because we're we're trying really hard to get me caught up on the entire show and her caught up on the last 2 or 3 seasons before Jodie Whittaker takes over and in the Christmas special, and it's like a big thing and it's playing in theaters and shit. So we're like, that is what we're watching right now.
Gotcha.
We are watching Doctor Who, and as soon as we're done watching Doctor Who, I imagine that we will be able to start watching other things. But right now, it is that show, y'all. So I will, as always, have lots of things to say about shows happening right now in like 5 years.
Right. Yeah, that is kind of your thing. But
Yeah.
that's also my thing because of what I do. So
That's true.
But yeah, I'm the only thing that's like going to be kind of current again, other than Twin Peaks, which doesn't feel like the same thing since it started so long ago, will be when we pick up Stranger Things again in October.
All right. Yeah, still gotta watch that. Haven't seen the first season of that yet.
There goes a fun show. It's just really well done.
That's what I've heard.
So yeah, $5 and up gets you Twin Peaks. If you're $4 and below, you'll get access to Twin Peaks once it's completely wrapped up and we're all done. And then after that, $5 and up will get you whatever I do for patrons at that point, which I think is going to be a series of Harry Potter exclusive stuff, like doing some of the extra books and the Fantastic Beasts movie and things like that. And if you're $10 and up, you're going to get a sweet, sweet postcard in the mail that says Snape was still a dick, though. And I'm going to be sending those out in about a week. So,
am I getting one of those? Do I get one of those? I want one.
Maybe
Can I
if
have
you're
one?
good. I don't know.
Can I please have one?
I don't know. I'll think about it. I'm going to keep you on your good behavior, sir.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah,
Look,
I'm excited
I didn't say
about
I didn't
these.
believe in reincarnation, Natasha. Anyway.
Do you believe in my eclipse ritual with crystals? Answer quickly.
Yes. Was that the right answer? No, it wasn't. Damn.
Nope. You're fired.
Shit. Well, guys, it's been a great run. I've had a lot of fun.
Podcast canceled. Thank you. Bye-bye. But yeah, so $10 and up, that's a postcard every month, a different one. And I have not designed the one for August yet. I need to get on that. But I think it's going to be one that you can cut down the middle and make into 2 different bookmarks. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Miles, what do you want to share with us?
Oh, man. So, y'all, listen to the Smash Fiction podcast if you don't already. It is the show where a bunch of friends of mine and I have crazy, silly, ridiculous debates about which fictional characters would win in a fight of, like fights of various types and style and stuff. It's pretty fucking fun show. Our most recent episode that just came out was a 3-way fight with a battle of hordes of space bugs. So it was the Xenomorphs from the Alien franchise versus the Tyranids from Warhammer 40K versus the Zerg from StarCraft. So if you're into to that kind of thing, then definitely check that out. This next Sunday, because our episodes come out on Sundays, I'm very excited to announce that we will be doing Derek Zoolander versus Gracie Hart from Miss Congeniality.
Oh my god.
So that's going to be tons of fun.
That's
so
pretty
check
awesome.
that out. Yeah. We had Rick Deckard from Blade Runner versus Major Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell recently. Before that, we had our second anniversary special, which was a lot of fun. And before that's the episode where Rashawn was on. So
Yay!
if you're a fan of Rashawn, check that out. She's on the Granny Weatherwax Minerva McGonagall episode. And then, of course, once a month we do Extraordinary League, which is our actual play RPG podcast in which we all take on the roles of various characters from fiction in some insane shit, and it is a good old time. So check that out. Extraordinary League comes out on the first Sunday of every month in lieu of a regular Smash Fiction episode. Smash Fiction podcast.libsyn.com. I don't know. It's on fucking iTunes, guys. It's on iTunes. I don't even give out the Libsyn address. Like, nobody goes, I'm gonna go to the podcast, I'm gonna go find the Libsyn address. Like, come on. How do you get your podcast? What app do you use? We are on it. Search for Smash Fiction. Search for us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast, on Tumblr, on fucking YouTube and Facebook and all of the media's social.
I like how aggressive this got for no reason all of a sudden. You're just
I
like,
just
you know
like-
what? Fucking find it, you schmucks.
I was doing really well. Like, I was really on a roll, and then I, like, stumbled with the Libsyn thing because I, like, doubted myself, and then I just got pissed off at myself that I stumbled. So that's why that got aggressive.
Gotcha.
Also, if you want to read a bunch of stuff that I wrote like 6 months ago, go to universesofthemind.com for my Universes of the Mind blog, which is a blog about science fiction that has not been updated in a very long time because I like moved and got married and changed jobs and
excuses. We don't want to hear it, Miles.
You know what? You don't even read it. Don't even talk to me about it. So, universesofthemind.com, if you want to check that out. I promise that as soon as there's a new post up there, I will ecstatically announce that on this very podcast. So, keep an ear out for that. And then you can also check out the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast if you want to hear some of the other podcast production that I do, because I am the host and producer of that show, which is the show where we record a live event once a month of people telling regular stories, I mean, not regular stories, but like their stories based on a theme. So the most recent one was Emergency, and the next one I think is Potluck, and that was a really interesting show. So yeah, because people like interpreted that a lot of different ways. So like, because I thought it was a weird theme, right? Like when they told me like potluck, really? Like what are people can tell about like the best potlucks you've ever been to?
Okay.
But like, you know, some people just apparently just heard the pot part.
Okay.
So, you know, they have stories about that, and apparently some people just heard the luck part, so they have stories about that. So you can check that out. It's called the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast, also available on all your podcast platforms. And I think that's me. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We love you dearly. Thank you for leaving reviews and showing the love.
Yeah, seriously, leave a review for Smash Pick if you like that, please. That'd be great.
No, don't leave reviews for anything.
And for Odyssey
that Miles
Story.
doesn't do with me, because only I deserve reviews ever.
You're killing my career. You're killing my podcasting career. I knew it was going to happen.
Listen, nothing ensures that people will do something as much as telling them not to do it. Okay, you're golden.
That's legit. All right, I appreciate you.
All right, guys, we will see you in 2 weeks. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.